Let me tell you, the session we're talking about is scripting its way to success. Disney star. And for the same, we're going to be having shortly the head content Disney Plus, Hotstar, and HSM Entertainment Network, Mr. Gaurav Banerjee, who's going to be in conversation with the founder, CEO, and editor-in-chief, IndianTelevision.com Group, Mr. Anil Wanvari.
So I'm actually, hi, GB. We call him GB. That's what we call him. What's your typical day like? I'm going to deviate a bit from the script like. What's your typical day? And then we'll get on to what's success at Disney Star India.
I wake up to the really, really difficult task to wake up my son to get him to school.
Okay.
And after that, I make myself some tea and check in on my wife, check in on my mom, who's living with me now. And start thinking about what curveballs people like you will throw at me.
No, I don't think I really throw any curveballs at you.
And after that, rest of it goes in talking to a lot of people who many of them are in this room, creating a lot of the content that we just saw in all of those AVs. So honestly, it's a great day usually and a wonderful life where you're essentially paid to talk to wonderful creative people, read scripts, watch content. Amazing.
Yeah, it's been what, 12 years now at Star?
Oh. So in a few months, it's going to be 20 years.
20 years. Wow. Wow. A big round of applause again. A larger one and a louder one, please. So he's one of the veterans. Coming back again, So you've seen a lot of it happening. You've seen, world of content changing. You've seen streaming. You've seen television. Well, first you've seen television. Sorry, got the order wrong. You've seen television, then you've seen streaming. How are you working on the balance, because you're a broadcaster, which also is in streaming. So how are you balancing out the content that you have to show on these two platforms?
So Anil, you took me down memory lane as we were chatting because you told me that you started working in 1982. And I told you that I started going to school roughly around that time. So if I were to take you back a little bit, when I first came to work at Star, there was a program that was being discussed. We hadn't made it then. And I started my career at Star in Star News, where I used to, believe it or not, anchor. And also,
no, we believe it totally. You have a great personality, and I'm sure you were a great anchor.
I was okay. So we were putting together this program, which I thought was really, really strange, because it was going to cover television shows as news. And I remember looking in a very befuddled way at my boss and saying, really, is that news? And also wondering that if indeed this is news, then, am I like the right person to have anything to do with it? Because, well, a few years later, roughly 5 years later, I remember being in a room with Ekta Kapoor, now running content for Star Plus, and she very excitedly telling me that, this part of the storyline is hugely inspired by Kyunki Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahu Thi. And me stopping her in her tracks and saying, you'll just need to help me with that, because honestly, I hadn't seen Kyunki Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahu Thi. So it's been quite a change. So the show that I was talking about is actually just completing 20 years. I heard from the team just a few days ago. It's called Saas Bahu or Sazish. I'm sure all of you have kind of heard about it. And it's, one of those markers, right? What to a very conventional journalistic mind 20 years ago seemed like, what's going on? And is this news? Is this really, really important? I think what we have learned and what I have learned over the last 2 decades is that it's really, really important because in some ways it is shaping our culture. In many ways, it is shaping the society that we are and the society that we want to be. So I think it's amazing for all of us to be having an opportunity to do something which is really exciting. It's hugely aspirational, and it's also important. I think many a time in life you have to make some trade-offs. This job, the dream to be telling stories, is an opportunity to do both those things.
Yeah, so, but how do you rationalize your costs and so that you have the best of talent between, you're avoiding the question, between Hotstar and Star Plus and all the other Star channels? You have limited budgets, you don't have unlimited budgets, so everyone thinks your coffers are overflowing and they're never empty.
No, that's a good question, and I'm sorry, I didn't answer your question on how do we deal with choices between what do we do on TV and what do we do on Hotstar. So honestly, we don't think of them as competing mediums because of the way we have defined ourselves as a company, right? I think that's one of the really important and big calls that we took nearly 8-9 years ago as we went into launch Hotstar, because we could have thought about it like many other legacy media companies did and said, okay, this is a new competing medium that's coming, which is going to take away our viewers and it's going to take away our ad dollars, right? And I think a lot of people approached it like that. Our approach to change and technology has always been that, those things, they're our friends, right? And we shouldn't, and we don't want to resist them. We need to embrace them. We want to master them, right? And we want to do what is best possible with them. So the approach that we took is that we said, okay, we are not a television company, which was quite amazing for a company that was at that time called Star TV. And for many of us, and again, going back to when I was in school, Star TV meant TV, right? Because the only other TV that was there in early 90s before that was Doordarshan, right? Which was great at that time and definitely in the 80s. But Star TV in many ways made private television happen in this country in the last 30 years. And now Star TV was saying, we're not TV. So what are we? Who are we, right? And we said we are storytellers to the nation, right? We want to be the company that stands for amazing, high quality, branded storytelling. And frankly, we are very, very happy to leave the choice of the distribution medium to consumers, right? So you should be able to decide what is convenient for you. If you want to watch Anupama with the rest of your family at one time, right around dinner or right after that, fantastic. Watch it at 10 o'clock on Star Plus. But if you can't make it at 10 p.m. and you still need to catch the episode and you perhaps want to watch it actually before the rest of the country can watch it, become a member of Disney Plus Hotstar. So that's frankly been our approach. We don't really care where the consumption is. We care to make great stories. And therefore, the more and more, and frankly, that's where my role and the way we organize our company that kicked in, to say, we don't want to be sort of competing, right? We don't want a television arm which is doing storytelling, which is in competition with a Hotstar arm, right? We want to see it as one. And we want their task not to be internally competing with each other, but helping a lot of people in this room tell better stories, right? So that's the effort. So it's not really moving money from here to there. It's all the money that we have, that our revenue teams can generate, that can go into creating outstanding, high-quality storytelling that's relevant to India.
Yeah, but what I've seen over the past couple of years is where earlier the streaming platforms were more for catch-up television or for previewing television. Now, originals are starting to stand tall as well, and they're getting a lot of viewership. So that's a change which I believe even you've seen it as a content creator.
Yes, so I think with many things in India, right, we are doing our own thing, and I think many of those trends, we're delighted that Hotstar has pioneered. So, for example, in the West, right, where a lot of the streaming boom was led by Netflix, they had a lot of legacy content from the media companies, and therefore, when they started creating fresh content, which was only on Netflix, that was originals, right? So, Netflix originals started in that manner for that reason. But for us, we are creating about 20,000 hours of content every year. And all of that goes, or over 90% of it goes on Hotstar, right? So, so there is a huge amount of fresh, original content that is going on Hotstar anyway. And yet we felt that particularly as we built our SWOT business, that we needed to have a distinct Hotstar brand, which was also doing high quality storytelling, distinct from our television brands. And that's why we launched about 4 years ago Hotstar Specials. And yes, we have made massive investments in those. You saw some of those clips, Rudra and City of Dreams and Criminal Justice from the slate in Applause. And some of those are the biggest shows that we have done in partnership with Applause. So yes, I think we have seen a big jump in quality. We want to create exclusive web content, which makes, people believe that it's worth their money to pay for it. And I think that's the distinct layer that we are adding. And of course, there are companies which are streaming only companies, right? Which have come in and made India a big focus, like Netflix, like Amazon. So I think we have a lot of, competition in this space, which is amazing because, more money is coming in, more opportunities are getting created, consumers are getting a choice to watch lots of high quality storytelling. So it's in a good space.
Yeah, but is the sentiment I said correct, the trend that originals are also getting a lot of attention from viewers as compared to just it being previewing television before television on OTT, which is what, people going to watch Anupama before it airs on TV. Is that happening or is that still?
Yes, it's definitely happening and it is growing. And frankly, much further growth needs to happen. I think the big challenge in India is that streaming has to achieve scale, right? So I think in India, television has incredible scale, right?
Absolutely.
So TV audience in India is roughly 800 million people, right? That's massive. If the TV audience of Anupama was a country, it would be the 4th largest population country in the world, right? So that's how big television in our country is. And that's something that all of us should be really, really proud of. I think that's what's been built here distinctly, uniquely by all of us, by this industry in the last 3 decades or so, which is in a very good space and which has an opportunity to grow further, right? So even television growth isn't, even at 90% in the northern part of our country. So there are massive opportunities for TV growth, which we are honestly very excited about. And we want to do a lot more about that. And secondly, I think streaming, if you think of it, right, is much smaller, is so far largely in the affluent part of our country. And as affluence is growing, right, people are wanting more diverse content. They're becoming more demanding on quality. The exposure levels are increasing. That's creating another market at the top of the tier, which all of us are hugely excited about as well.
Yeah. So your shows and films on Disney Hotstar have been amongst the top 10 shows for a long time now. There are so many options available, as you said, across platforms. Competition is hot. It's intense. So it's remarkable that you managed to achieve this. So what's the content strategy now and going forward for Disney Plus Hotstar?
So thanks for saying that. Yes, it's been a good journey. I think one of the first principles is that whether it is television or it is Hotstar, we have to believe and constantly improve our storytelling skills, right? So everybody on the team internally, what is it that we are learning about the craft and what is it that we are learning about India's consumers and what they want to watch? So I think we're sort of deeply focused to trying and being the best learning organization that we can be. Second, I think we're deeply protective and incredibly proud of our brand, right? So I think our brand gets us in. And therefore, more that we can keep doing that makes people believe that this is a brand that they love, that they can trust. I think that's hugely important and relevant to us. So I think if you think in terms of Disney Plus Hotstar, whether it is a show like Legend of Hanuman, or it's a show like Rudra, or Criminal Justice, or the recent Night Manager, all of those shows have been able to get love, right? So people want to watch it. Many of them have watched it a second time. There is anticipation for the next seasons to come. So I think our key endeavor is that we have to surprise our viewers with something new and leave them with an experience that they feel is, worth their time. They love it. They love the engagement that they have with our stories, with our characters. And we want to do everything that we can do to help build that.
On the regional side, Disney plus Hotstar and your entire Star regional bouquet, you'll have been launching a lot of new shows. You'll have been creating a lot of, also working on cinema over there. So what's the strategy out there in terms of getting audiences, glued? And apart from that, how are you ensuring that you're securing the talent also, the best of talent too, and even newcomers? You need to have a balance of the best of talent, because the best of talent costs a lot of money. Then you need to encourage new talent, which also allows you to create cutting-edge content.
So I think our regional markets are really, really important to us. The first job in entertainment that I did at Star was to build 2 of our regional channels, one in Marathi, which is in this city, Star Prava, doing phenomenally well, and the other in Bengal, Star Jalsha. So I think we recognized early on that massive growth in India is going to come by thinking about our content strategy in multiple languages and not just in Hindi, right? And I think following from that, we have really built to scale up our teams and our presence in each of these languages. So if you think of it today, we have the biggest channel in the biggest regional language in this country, Telugu, Star Ma, right? We have a very exciting channel which is usually #1 on prime time in Tamil, Star Vijay. We of course have Asianet and Prava and Jalsha. So we've got a lot of channels which are very strong #1 channels or close #2 channels in all the big regional markets, and we sort of build them, and we continue to invest strongly behind, making them huge storytelling forces. We want to, and we are in the midst of creating that same aura and presence on Disney plus Hotstar as well. So if you think of it, just about 2 years ago, we were programming largely on Hotstar only in Hindi. Today, we are programming in 4 different languages, right? So we have a very amazing slate in Tamil, in Telugu, and in Malayalam. And we are incredibly proud of the kind of diverse content that is coming together in all of these languages, right? So if I were to begin by just talking about what we've done in Tamil, I think one of our first originals outside of Hindi was in Tamil, a story called November Story, which did really well for us. It starred Tamanna. It's a really good story, right? And I think we tasted success. We wanted to do more. And over a period of time, we've built a really good slate of Tamil originals and some incredible feature films as well, which we have rights to. Something that we just did has also got off to a great start, which is a show that used to come many years ago on Star Vijay called KKK, which was based in a school in Chennai. And all these school children and what happens to them as they're navigating, finding themselves, finding their own identities, figuring out what, life ambition means, figuring out love. And we created amazing, interesting storylines. And we brought a new season of KKK on Hotstar last year. And we just debuted the 2nd season last week. And it's off to a phenomenal start. So, I think we're very excited about the slate in Tamil. In Malayalam, I think many of you know that it's a very exciting feature film market, and they create some of the path-breaking, most interesting new voices in Indian cinema. And I think we have seen that work really well on Hotstar. This year, we've had the most fantastic year on Malayalam, with probably one of the best films that we've had on the platform across languages in Malayalam, Jaya Jaya Hey. Those of you who've not watched it, please do go and see it. It's a really powerful, beautiful film. We just had Romancham, another Malayalam film that's a great film, has done really well as well. So I think that's been an exciting entry point. And now we're in the midst of building our own slate of specials in Malayalam. The first one should launch in the next few weeks. And then we've got a really good lineup that we are excited about. In Telugu, again, we've got some really good films and some amazing series in development, and many of them have aired in the last few months as well. So we did Parampara, we did Jhansi. Again, we have quite a robust pipeline coming up. And of course, in all of these languages, we have Big Boss, which has a 24/7 feed, which is exclusively on Hotstar, which also gets in a lot of viewership for us. So I think this regional slate is critically important to our growth. We feel massive opportunities are there today, and what we have seen in the last couple of years really excites us.
Yeah. So are you seeing a crossover of audiences, Hindi audiences watching Malayalam, Malayalam audiences watching Hindi, and likewise, or Telugu or Tamil? I mean, I personally did watch that Jaya film. I thought it was phenomenal, but are you seeing a lot more of that?
Yes, we absolutely are. So every series that we make, in whichever language, we ensure that it is dubbed in all the major Indian languages. And we have seen a lot of it. And not surprisingly, the best performing market in that case is Telugu. So everybody in the Hindi heartland, for some amazing reason, really likes to watch Telugu content. And that's true for not just RRR, but also for our series. So that's a great trend, and we are very excited about it. Absolutely.
Yep. So you have a show called Anupama, which has been running now forever. I mean, I would like to successfully, very successfully. And in that show, you have Rupali Ganguly doing inane things, very ordinary day-to-day things, and it becomes a national obsession. I mean, what's the thinking behind that? And, you know, in terms of how do you keep this audiences so glued onto that show for, it's been how many years now? 4 years? Or
Yeah,
5?
I think
4?
3 years.
3 years.
So we'll come to Anupama in a second. I'm very proud of that show. Who wouldn't be? But before that, since you mentioned longevity, we have another show called Ye Rishta Kya Kehlata Hai, which would, I think, air the 4010th episode tonight at 9:30. So, you know, 4,000 plus episodes over 13 years, and always one of the top 5 or top 10 shows in the country for all of these 13 years is just a phenomenal performance, and just shows what you can do with building incredible show brands, right? Which have a lot of love, excitement, energy, and commitment to tell, you know, good stories. And I think that's what Ye Rishta is about. And the person who produces that with us, Rajan Shahi, also produces Anupama, and has again done an absolutely stellar job with that show. But I think the story of Anupama in some ways is also like the story of Star, which is takes itself very seriously, that it's talking in multiple languages. Because I don't know if you know this, but Anupama is actually an adaptation of a show that we first did in Bengali called Srimoi. So with a wonderful writer, Leena Di, I have known her and worked with her since my Jalsha days. So since 2010, I think we did our first show together on Jalsha. And she made just such an incredible story, which really caught our attention here in Bombay as well. And we saw that it did brilliantly on Star Pravah too. Right, and then we picked it up and started working on it, and then Rajan, of course, you know, gave it his own take, and that adaptation in every detail is very distinct and very unique from what was there. But the groundwork was already there with a phenomenal script that Leena Di had done. And I think the reason Anupama became a phenomenon, well, there are so many reasons, right, and so many people contribute to make a show incredible. But I think the biggest thing was that we started with an insight that, you know, a lot of television was anchored around women and women whose journey was starting out in their marriage life. So, you know, our protagonists generally tended to be in the age group of 22 to 25. We wanted to change that, right? And we wanted to tell the story of a mom and how a mom is trying to sort of balance out a series of, you know, challenges, responsibilities that get thrown her way every day. And then how does she sort of, you know, overcome this feeling that she's actually not doing anything because she doesn't have a professional, you know, existence, right? The name doesn't mean anything outside of this home. What she does inside also is not deeply appreciated. So I think in many ways, the core of this show is something that everybody could relate to. You know, you thought that you were perhaps in some way this person yourself, or you knew this person, and, you know, it wasn't somebody you knew in a distant way. This person was pretty much in your house, in your vicinity, was probably your mother. So, you know, I think that anchorage has helped Anupama become the show that it has. And of course, it really helps that Rupali is a fantastic actor.
Great. Now, earlier there was a set formula. You had a good lead actor, you had a good director, you had a big splash of a release. All that doesn't seem to be working in films and in. Please let's stop using the word Bollywood. We are not a cheap imitation of Hollywood. Let's start calling it Indian cinema, Hindi cinema, Telugu cinema. I would request all the broadcasters to stop using the word Bollywood, because we are not a cheap imitation. So anyway, earlier in Hindi cinema, you would have a big star, big director, big splash of a release, and you had a great winner. But that doesn't seem to be working anymore now. You may have a big star, you may have a big director, you may have all of that, and fabulous marketing, but audiences are not going to the cinema halls. So how do you explain this one? And secondly, what are you all doing in terms of selecting your films for your own channels and for the OTT? How do you know what's going to work?
So, Anil, as you probably know, I don't make films, so I can speak about it with a certain amount of distance. And I think the one thing that I do want to say is that thank God, right? Because me and my company, we buy a lot of films, right? And
you probably help producers recover some of their revenues, which they may not out of theaters.
Unfortunately, largely it has been a very, very large proportion of their revenues. And that's why I'm saying thank God, because I think there is a huge problem. And I think the problem has been there for a long time. And I think the writing is on the wall, and it needs change. And I think if you were to think of it, right, today in our country, we are seeing a lot of talent come through and do brilliantly well on YouTube, right? They literally don't need anybody else to help them become incredibly well known, right? And I partnered strongly with one such incredible talent, Bhuvan Bam, and his personal story is so amazing, right? That he kept going for auditions and kept getting rejected. And then one day he decided, okay, I'm going to write something and just stick it on YouTube and let's see what happens. And, now he has over 20 million followers on YouTube. He has his own show on Disney Plus Hotstar, which is a big hit. So, his journey was literally started by his own creativity with no help from outside, right? So we are seeing this entire ecosystem build on its own. Then we are seeing the boom that is happening on streaming. We are seeing the television continuing to be really effective and strong. You and I are talking about Anupama. And yet, when it comes to Hindi cinema, we are having quite the crisis. And I think the learnings from other areas where there is growth is perhaps what is needed, right? I think when we think of a series, we don't think of a star first, right? We think of the script, and we think a lot about the script, right? I can see Aradhana sitting in front of me, and Aradhana and I have been discussing a script for now, I think about a year and a half, perhaps a little longer, right? So I think, she thinks she's an exception, but I'm happy to tell you it's not. It really does take a very long time for anything good to get baked and developed and be consumer right? And after all of that, we often get things wrong, right? But at least the effort is there to get an incredible script, right? I think if you think about it, on Indian TV, I think the biggest value in a show, a large proportion of its budget also goes to the creative people behind it, right? Not just to the on-air faces. That's not the case with Hindi cinema. So I think we have real challenges on the creativity front, which are business challenges, which need to be taken up and worked upon. Right? And I think the world is also changing. Consumers, and rightly so, are demanding a lot more, right? You don't want to see a formula film. Nobody wants to see a formula film. You just will not go, right? It is very expensive. It does take a lot of time. Parking is a mess. So if you've got to do all of that, the experience that you're being promised has to be outstanding, right? My company made one of the biggest films of the year in India last year, Avatar, right? It's really hard for me to convince my son to go out with me for a film, right? He's just not interested. But he was chasing me, saying, Dad, when can we watch Avatar? And it's the one moment where he was sort of impressed with me that he got to, because of me, got to see it on the first day. So if we create, right, outstanding content, which is truly promising you something deep, meaningful, and the experience is something that you haven't seen before, and all those boxes were checked by Avatar, you're going to see phenomenal business. But if you're going to really just be there, say the same thing, do it quickly, not really care, the audiences see that too. They see that indifference, they see that cynicism, they see that this is perhaps just a cash grab, and they don't want to pay attention.
Absolutely. With that, Anil, yes, absolutely. I'm just standing here just to be your lifetimer in person. That's it.
Just a couple of questions more I have to go, and then the audience, a couple of questions from them. So the consumer has changed post-COVID. His entire perspective on life has changed. His, how he gets entertained has changed. Not only the older people like me, but also the youngsters. I think the attention span has become even less after COVID. So, what do you have to say about this, and how are you addressing this?
Yeah, I think I already spoke about this, right? I think the consumer has now experienced a lot more content,
okay,
and is therefore becoming a lot more demanding, right? And formulas will just not work. We understand that, we respect this, and we need to improve our game. And if we are not phenomenally improving our game, we don't have the right to be able to engage the consumer. So we are here, I am here in the service of drama fans, right? And if we serve those fans well, we'll have a good business. If we don't, we won't. So it's a very straight sort of equation, right? And there is no opportunity, none, for anything which is substandard, anything that reminds you of something else that you might have seen earlier. I think cliches are getting wiped out.
Great. Now, so coming down to the big storm in the bucket, I have Naman, who's basically working with Variety. He asked this tough question, which is about, you guys don't have the IPL anymore on OTT. Okay, you have it on television. I've seen a lot of music coming on Star Sports. I've seen performances. I did watch some, or was it on digital that you all put it out? I saw some musicians in the studio singing a special song for Virat. So entertainment is changing on television for sports as well, in a way. And then apart from that, the fact that you don't have the IPL, how is it impacting Disney Plus Hotstar? And has it really slowed down? Has there been churn? Have you lost subscribers? Then also, I'm being careful about it. I know you told me to ask it straight away, but I'm not going to ask that question because you can ask that question to him. And overall also, there's a lot of acquisitions happening all over. There's mergers happening. So how is this impacting? There's going to be consolidation of power maybe in one or two networks. Yola large networks. We had earlier 4 or 5 networks. Now we're reducing that. New ones are coming in. So how is that going to impact you all? How is it impacting your content? How is it impacting your strategy going forward?
So look, I think there is a lot of competition and it's getting, much more intense, which is fantastic because it only means one thing, that the size of the pie is worth fighting for. And I think it's recognition that we are now talking to the most populous country in the world. We're talking to the country which is the fastest growing major economy in the world. We're talking to a country which hopefully in 5 years will be the 3rd largest economy in the world. So this is a prize worth fighting for. And I think for all of us in the room, this means that there are great opportunities that are going to come, that are there today, and that are going to come in the future as well, right? This is a market which everybody is looking at with a lot of hope, because nowhere else can you see the kind of scale, the kind of growth that you can potentially see in India, right? As many commentators have said, there is truly an opportunity today for this being India's moment and for what follows being India's decade and India's century. So we've got to grasp it from a creative point of view, right? Can we become exporters of incredible IP? I think that's the challenge for everyone in this room, for everyone in this industry, you know. When is it that we are going to see a series and a film that is going to, you know, take the world by storm? And I think, you know, in some ways, some of those gates have been put open in the last 12 months with RRR, which is fantastic. But, you know, we've had those single film moments earlier, and Rajamouli himself has, you know, given us 3 of them. So, you know, let's just make it more than Rajamouli is what, you know, my hope is. I think he's a trailblazer. He's shown the way. And I think often, you know, you need that one person to show the way. I remember, you know, growing up, watching a lot of cricket and wondering that, you know, why does Indian cricket not have any fast bowlers, right? Pakistan seemed to have several. West Indies had even more. And Australia had incredible quicks. But for some really strange reason, India did not. And then someone told me saying, well, we just have to wait to have one. And then we'll have many. And then around the time you started your career, Kapil Dev had arrived, right? And once Kapil Dev arrived, it took a little bit of time. But after that, we had Javagal Srinath, and then we had Venkatesh Prasad, and now in the IPL, even this year, as I watched it on Star Sports, there are so many young Indian fast bowlers.
Arshdeep Singh is impressive.
Indeed.
Umran is pretty
Absolutely,
impressive.
Right? I mean, who would think a young man, Umran Malik from Jammu and Kashmir, bowling at 150 kph, it's just
and in fact, the Indian bowlers are leading in the red cap, or whatever the cap, orange cap, red cap, whatever they call it.
So what Indian cricketers have done, can Indian storytellers follow?
Yeah,
and I think that's the challenge for all of us.
Yeah, so the good news is that I've been talking to the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting and Ministry of Commerce. They've committed. I look after MIPCOM and MIPTV. 2024, October MIPCOM is going to be India country of focus at MIPCOM. They're keeping aside budgets. We'd love the content creators, the broadcasters to support that. We'll have a very strong focus. And probably what you talked about, I've been talking for years, that we need to break out from India. We need to go the K-drama way and have the I-drama, which succeeds across the world, and which is, you know, tom-tom by, you know, they had a clear strategy, the Korean government. They have KOCA, which is a Korea Creative Content Agency. So they're going to do something in India as well. The Indian government is going to create an agency like that, which is the SCPC, which is going to push Indian content overseas. So would love to have all of you all, you know, the whole industry, broadcasters, producers being a part of it. 2024, India Country of Honor at MIPCOM. And then we start breaking out and conquering the world. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, can I just say one thing? And I think all of this is really helpful. But the world will change when, you know, we change things here, right? Because it is essentially about putting pen on paper, and when you forward a script, you know, do you like it? Do you believe that it is awesome and distinct? And me as a publisher and my company, right? Do we do the value adds that we need to do to also make it better, you know? And when people who are directing, looking through the camera lens, if they are catching something and it's not okay, you know, will you sort of, you know, knock it off and make it better? So I think, you know, this is awesome, this change. And yes, we need support from government. And yes, we need support from every part of the ecosystem. But essentially, if this has to be a revolution, it has to have thousands and thousands of active participants, and it won't change. It will absolutely not change without that.
Yeah, but talking about change, you used to run a writers program. I used to run a writers program in 2003, 4, 5 with Lake Tandanji and all of them. What happened? I mean, I've discontinued the writers program. You've discontinued yours.
I haven't. We've put it on a break, but it's a very interesting program. I love it. And, you know, of course, the first question is, what business does a does a corporation have in running a writer's program? Right? How am I the right person to conceive of and create a writer's program? And frankly, I'm not, and we are not. But I went to every film and TV school in this country personally and met the heads and said, listen, television in India is a really growing industry. It needs schools for writers. Because
not just television, in OTT.
Yes, when I was making this pitch, yeah, sure. we had TV and OTT and TV content-wise, I think very similar. But you know, that's the thing, right? So for such a big industry, at that moment when I was having that conversation, we had no schools. Right? So there wasn't a single school that was teaching anybody how to write for TV. So when everybody said no, I came back and spoke to my bosses and said, okay, allow me to create this. Let's see what we can do with it. It's very hard, right? It's very hard to put in, I think, couple of $1 million and say, we are not going to get anything from this, right? There is no show that's going to come at the end of this, which if it works, will recover this money. It's just going in as seed money, and these writers will come out and maybe they will work for competition. Who knows? But we still need to do this. So we did this. We're incredibly proud of it. We've run 3 seasons. Just before COVID, it's been on a break. It's absolutely on my agenda to bring it back. But we need to do this. And frankly, I think I was able to push enough, and we started this, and after that the film schools have followed. So now there is more than one writers program in this country, which we're deeply proud of. I think we kickstarted that trend in some way, or restarted that trend in some way 4 or 5 years ago, and we need more. Absolutely, much more is needed.
Yeah, but some of your creatives who are working in Star emerged from the writers program, right? Some of your
a lot of them, yes, yeah. Absolutely. We're very proud of them. And
so I'm happy to say that Tuheen Sinha, who wrote your Yirishta, emerged from my writers program.
Awesome.
And now he's gone on to be a BJP spokesperson, etc. But thank you for your time. I hope it was an interesting chat. I hope you all enjoyed the conversation. There were some fresh insights. If they weren't, then we need to get some more fresh insights into this industry.
Thanks. You so much. Have a great conference, all of you. Thanks a lot, Anil.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks.